Hi everyone, Lisa here from Down to Earth Gardening, and happy holidays everyone. It's a little chilly out here. I'm in Northeast Connecticut, zone 6A, and I am dressed for the weather. We're continuing with our holiday decorating, and typically what we do for our clients is we offer our decorating services, which include our winter containers, our garlands, our custom wreaths. We did some mailbox decorating, but I wanted to show all of you how easy it is to make a beautiful holiday decoration, which is the swag. So I love the swag. I have lots of swag gardening jokes, but I'll spare you. So when we're done with all of our containers and all our roping and stuff, we have a lot of clippings left. So I thought this would be a really great time to show you what we do when we have all these leftovers. Because for you at home, if you are purchasing your Christmas tree, normally you bring it inside and you have to do a little trimming, and that will give you some material for your swag. I just feel like swags are so beautiful, and they are the easiest, in my opinion, holiday or winter decoration that you can make for your home. So I'm going to show you the materials that I'm using today and then walk you through how to make one or two. So you might recognize some of these items from our Christmas tree farm visit. And also I'm going to be incorporating some winterberry. So you'll notice some winterberry from our winterberry video, and then also some dried flowers from our dried flower video. So we're kind of bringing a few videos together at the end of the year for this project. But for what I've got on hand, and this will give you some ideas for what you may also have on hand at home, or even things that you might want to plant so you can incorporate them into your decorations for next year. So we have this really lovely Pieris, and I trimmed this off my own Pieris japonica. This is called Dorothy Wyckoff. I just love the red, I guess you'd call them bracts here, red burgundy, and this is an evergreen plant, so really pretty leaves to put in the mix. We had a couple of varieties here. I think the other one might be a white. I've also got a hedge of arborvitae at my house, so we use a lot of arborvitae. This is beautiful in winter decorations. Some Scotch pine here, which is going to add a really nice texture. Juniper. And I'm really just trying to lay out a little bit of everything from our pile behind me that we're pulling from, just so I can show you what I have on hand. So juniper, there's no berries on this, but sometimes you'll find it with beautiful blueberries, and that is a really nice addition to your decorations. Hemlock, which is another favorite. I love to use this because when you flip it around, the underside is like a silvery gray color. So I try to flip it around when I'm doing my wreaths and swags and roping, just to give those different colors. And then for our Christmas tree clippings, which you might recognize from our Christmas tree farm visit, is we have a branch of the Norway spruce, which is the beautiful pendulous spruce. Now I love this for swags because it's just very drapey. And then I also have a little piece of the fir, and remember, fir is fun to work with because fir is friendly. And we also have some spruce. This is going to be great for a swag, a great base, because of the way that it fans out. And then of course we have our beautiful red winter berries over here. Now what I want to mention about winterberry is that when you're working with it, they're really delicate, so they'll tend to fall off. And also when you're harvesting them, please leave some for the birds. I don't like to take more than 20 or 25% off of a single shrub because they rely on that for bird food. So your other option is to purchase some fake berries. And so I don't think they're so bad. I think they're rather natural looking, and I do think that it's nice in the mix. It's windy out here. It's nice in the mix to have a nice bright pop of color. And then just for extras, I've got a little bit of holly here. So you want to use your basics, is my point with this table. This is just some different options. I like to use a mix of evergreens and berries for my swags, just to add a little bit of texture and interest to it. But you can use all one material. So for example, all Norway spruce, all arborvitae. So really whatever you have on hand is my point. And hopefully this will give you some different options. So basics, you need your greens, and of course you need your tools. So you'll need your pruners. A pair of scissors is handy. I like to have some wire cutters, and then of course your wire. This is 22 gauge wire, but you can also use a 24 gauge. I like the green because I feel like it blends in a little bit, but this is a little sturdier. The only downside is the color will come right off on your hands, so wear gloves. Now we get to the fun stuff. This is what I call embellishments. So we have our basics, we have our tools, and now you'll want some embellishments. And in my opinion, this is what really customizes a piece and just kind of makes it your own. So I have a mix of options here, a mix of things, and I will show you. So one is this really lovely ivy that we have in a basket here. So that's going to be fun to work with. I have some things that I brought from home that I've dried that you may recognize from our drying flowers video. I have some gorgeous Dusty Miller, which I can add in for a nice pop of silvery gray. I also have a little bit of Artemisia. And I have some gorgeous fuchsia celosia, the plume-styled celosia that we dried. And then my daughter, Hannah, reminded me that she had some amaranth and some beautiful, this is the Love Lies Bleeding from her garden that she dried. I also have a little bit of Russian sage, and I just clipped this, so I didn't dry this earlier, so that's why you don't see the flowers on it. I have a little bit of the red twig dogwood. I have some maple twigs. So, and then the other thing that I have in the mix here are some hydrangeas that we do wait and clip a little bit later. And that way we'll have them in our stash for spraying with gold or silver paint. So you could, if you had dried your hydrangeas, your blues or your pretty mauves, you could use those. Or if you're late to the party and you're clipping your hydrangeas after they started turning, don't worry about it. You can still clip them and spray them, and for a pop of nice color we use the gold. This is an example of the gold, or we have a little bit of silver on that hydrangea over there. And I mean, look at how pretty. This is just a little light spraying of silver. I feel like it really makes the flowers pop. So that's some of our dried extras and our ivy, and just some things that we just have a little bit of that will add a nice touch to things. And then I also have some other goodies that fall under the category of embellishments. So I consider ribbon an embellishment. So I have a whole case of my holiday ribbon here, and I have this really pretty ribbon that's a little more natural. And then my daughter picked up some plaid, so those are some other options. Pine cones. So if you can pick up any pine cones, those are fun to use. We have some metallic artificial leaves here. And then this is something else that I just picked up actually at the dollar store, are these little bells. And all I'm going to do with these is rip off the artificial greens and pine cones, and then I'm just going to string them with some silver ribbon and add them to the swags. So this is where you can really get creative and just embellish it. You know, if you want to try to match it up to your color scheme or however you're decorating, you know, whatever your theme is that year, it's really how you add that extra special touch. So next I'm going to put a swag together, and I'm going to walk you through the steps and show you how easy it is. So we're ready to put together our swag. And again, it's so hard to not tell some swag jokes today, but I like to work on a flat surface. So I'm just standing at this table here, and the reason I like to do that is because I'm going to be building it, and I'm going to be just stacking my branches on the table, and then when I'm looking down at it, I'm going to see what the finished product is going to look like. So this is an easy method to build your swag. So I've got some material here, and I'm just going to walk you through how I like to do this. So when you're using your branches, you're going to be using your longest and widest pieces on the bottom. So that's really going to be the base of your swag. So at this point, you should be thinking about how wide and how long you want it to be. And this is really important if you're putting it on your front door. I like to put it on the side of my door, so I have a little more flexibility for size. But I've seen, you know, really big swags that are 3 and 4 feet long, and I've also seen some really short little petite ones that people will create and use as part of their gift wrapping. So my swag is probably going to be at least 3 feet long, and I would say at least 2.5 feet wide. So the biggest piece is going to be on the bottom. And this is where I like to use something that really fans out nicely for my base. So this is going to be great here. Now, if you don't have one big piece for the base, you can also combine a couple. So like, I wouldn't consider this a good enough base because it's pretty narrow. So you can combine a couple just to beef it up a little bit and get a little more of a fan shape is what you're looking for. Okay, so longest pieces first, and then I'm just going to stack them or layer them. And again, I like to use some different textures. So I'm going to use a little bit of the pine in the mix. And then I'm going to start working with some shorter pieces. So while I'm doing this, I'm also trying to put all of my stems together at the top here. And the reason being, this is how we're going to wire it together. So in other words, this little piece of hemlock, I can't just really lay down here. I'm just going to make it a little more complicated for myself if I do that when I wire it together. So I have to be able to position the stem here. And remember, with the hemlock, it's also fun to flip it around so you can see both sides. So I'm going to do a little bit of both. And I'm going to create a couple of different swags today just so you can see a couple of different options, I guess, for the embellishments. So for this one, I want to get some red and some silver. So I've got my red twig dogwood here and my Russian sage. And you can just see how that really spruces it up here. So a little bit of that. And look at this beautiful amaranth. This is from my daughter Hannah's garden. So remember, I've got to like keep pulling things up towards the top so that I'm sure that they're all going to get wrapped in wire. So I'm just trying to decide if I want the amaranth on the top or the bottom. And this is the benefit of working on a table on a flat surface here, is I can kind of switch things around until I'm happy with it. So just kind of like rework or re-layer things a little bit. I really like that. And so, you know, an option would be to try to put some red berries in the mix, or to do some, I like the silver here, so I'm going to try to do a little bit more silver. So see, the beauty of wiring it last is I can change my mind here. I like the hydrangea, but I do feel like it might hide some things. So an option for this is I can slim this hydrangea down a little bit and just kind of skinny it up. Okay, so the Dusty Miller is really pretty, but that's going to have to be towards the top if I use it. So I'm not really sure that that's going to work. All right, Dusty Miller was too short, but I know the Artemisia is a little bit longer. I still have the raffia on it from when I dried it. Raffia is actually another really great addition to this if you have any. So I think a little piece of this. And then maybe just a sprig of this for my bow here. So just so you can get a look, a better look, I'm just going to edge this over because I want you to see what I'm seeing as I'm looking down at it. Okay, so now we're going to wrap it and tie it together. So wire cutters. And then very last, I'm going to do my bow, and I may or may not add those sparkly bells that I showed you. Just having fun with it is all we're doing. Okay, so remember, I have to try to get everything in the wire. And I can see something fell out here. It's not a tragedy if it doesn't happen. I can always go back with some strips of wire. I'm just really trying to show you the easiest way to put this together. So you want to pull it as tight as you can, and you want to twist it off. And then I'm just gonna tie it in the back. Now at this point, you know, some people do on the back, they like to make a loop for hanging, but I usually don't worry about that. You know, if you can leave like a little tail back there to catch your hook or your nail, then that's fantastic. And if you can't, it's really okay. That's something you can figure out later. All right, so Now remember, this is what's holding it together, so you really want this to be snug, and just kind of pull this as tight as you possibly can. And I like to wrap it a few times. It does get windy here. Okay. So this is something that doesn't have to be really pretty, the wire wrapping. This is really just functional, and your bow is going to cover this. All right, so now in the back, I'm really just twisting it off, and I can leave a tail here, and that will help me wrap it around my nail. So you can leave that tail at the beginning or the end. And so just holding it up, beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna have a little more fun. I'm going to choose my ribbon, and I may try to see how the bells look on here, and then I will show you the finished product. All right, so we're finishing up the swag, and the final steps are really, I think, the most fun, because you're really finishing it off and making it your own and embellishing. So we wrapped it together, and I'm kind of feeling like I would like a third hydrangea. So I didn't want to do that without you folks joining me, because I wanted to show you that you still can add things after if you're not happy with your final product. So in my mind, you know, I'm a garden designer. I like to do things in odd numbers, and you know, a lot of designers do. I know in floral design, it's the same. So 3s, 5s, 7s. So I really feel like I've got this hydrangea here, these two, and I want to finish it off by adding one more. So what I'm going to do is just try to weave it in here, so it's underneath my wire where I wrapped it. And I kind of like them at different staggering heights. So I've added that in there. And of course I've done my bow. And I might trim the tails, but I do like some long tails in the mix. So I've used this burlappy, I don't know if that's a word, burlappy material for the bow, because I feel like it's a little more organic looking. So I've got this here in the mix, and I connected 2 of the silver bells with the ribbon. So I just need to figure out how long I'm going to want that. Here, I actually kind of like them a little more staggered here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to knot them so they're a good length, and then I'm going to wire them on with the bow. And then before I do that, I want to show you one last trick that I do with this here. So where we have our branches at the top, you know, of course, I mean, it's totally fine to leave it like this, but sometimes what I'll do is I will take a couple of sprigs of something. So I've got the pine here, so I'm just going to use that. And I cut them so they're about 8 inches long. And this is just an option. And when I tie my bow on, I flip them around and just put them at the top here, just to kind of finish it off. So not necessary, just a little added something if you like the look of that. And then we've got to wire our bow, and I'm really just trying to weave in my ribbon to catch my silver bells. And then I'm also going to catch my pine pieces, wrap it around, twist it. I cannot wait to see the finished product here. You're getting to see it before I am. All right. And I've got this here. Okay, folks, this is it. We've got swag. So I really appreciate you joining me. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like, and of course subscribe to our channel for some future gardening videos. And again, happy holidays to all of you.